Welcome to Jamaica News Now, and our weekly journey across Jamaica's 14 parishes, highlighting the events that generated the greatest public interest between Monday, July 6th and Sunday, July 12th, 2026. Kingston. Brazen service station attack triggers manhunt. A violent robbery at a service station on Deanery Road became one of Kingston's most disturbing crime stories of the week, after a female pump attendant was shot during an encounter captured on closed-circuit television. The incident reportedly occurred during the early afternoon of Wednesday, July 8th, when three men arrived at the station in a light-colored motor car and initially appeared to be ordinary customers purchasing fuel. Video footage circulated online appeared to show money being passed to the attendant before she opened the vehicle's fuel tank. As she turned away, three men reportedly emerged from the passenger side of the vehicle and confronted her. During the struggle, an object appearing to be a firearm was pointed at the worker before she was pushed backwards and disappeared from the camera's view. The injured woman was subsequently taken to hospital for treatment. The Jamaica Constabulary Force quickly released images of three men believed to have been involved and appealed for them to surrender to the Hunts Bay Police. Investigators said the suspects were also being sought in connection with a series of robberies committed across the corporate area, suggesting that the service station attack may have formed part of a wider pattern of criminal activity. The Jamaica Gasoline Retailers Association later condemned the violence and called for stronger security measures to protect workers and customers at service stations. The incident renewed concerns about vulnerability of pump attendants who frequently handle cash while working in open and highly accessible environments. It also demonstrated how rapidly CCTV footage can become central to a police investigation and public appeal. For Kingston's resident, the case was particularly alarming because of the apparent boldness of the attackers. The incident happened in daylight at an operating business and in full view of surveillance cameras. By the end of the week, the investigation has expanded beyond Kingston and led police into neighboring St. Catherine, where the case took a deadly turn. St. Andrew. Traffic ticket initiative draws thousands, but detention and conditions spark outcry. Thousands of motorists traveled to the National Arena in St. Andrew during the special Traffic Ticket Days initiative organized by the Court Administration Division. The program was established to help reduce the substantial backlog at the Kingston and St. Andrew Traffic Court by allowing large numbers of motorists to settle outstanding matters within a specially organized court environment. Officials reported that 4,280 traffic tickets were processed on Wednesday alone, generating approximately $30 million in fines. By midday on Thursday, a further 1,200 tickets had reportedly been processed. The Court Administration Division said approximately 6,000 offenders had registered for the initiative, collectively accounting for close to 45,000 outstanding tickets. However, the program became controversial after several motorists arrested on outstanding warrants complained that they were held inside a bathroom area at the National Arena while awaiting to appear before a judge. One motorist described the conditions as unpleasant and argued that a section of the spacious venue could have been partitioned to accommodate those in custody more appropriately. Court Administration Division Chief Executive Officer Teresa Cameron Anglin defended the decision, explaining that the individuals were under arrest and therefore had to be kept in a contained and secured area. She noted that under normal circumstances, people arrested on warrants could have been taken to a police lockup rather than being held temporarily at the venue. Some motorists similarly acknowledged that remaining at the arena was preferable to being transported to a formal detention facility. The disagreement nevertheless raised broader questions about dignity, humane treatment, and logistical planning during large-scale justice initiatives. While the Traffic Ticket Days program succeeded in processing thousands of cases and collecting significant sums in unpaid fines, the controversy showed that administrative efficiency must be balanced with acceptable conditions for people held in state custody. Officials also warned that motorists with multiple outstanding tickets who failed to attend were still subject to arrest. With the government preparing to intensify the execution of traffic-related warrants, The St. Andrew event offered a preview of the practical challenges that may emerge as police and court authorities attempt to resolve tens of thousands of outstanding cases. St. Catherine. 2 suspects killed as police operation follows Kingston robbery spree. The investigation into the shooting of the Deanery Road pump attendant moved into St. Catherine on Wednesday night when police received information that men believed to be connected to the attack had been seen in the St. John's area of Spanish Town. Officers reportedly traveled to the community shortly after 9 p.m. as part of an operation to locate the suspects. According to the police account, officers encountered a group of men and identified themselves as members of the security forces. The men allegedly responded by brandishing firearms and shooting at the police. Officers returned fire, and 2 men were reportedly struck. They were transported to the Spanish Town Hospital, where they were pronounced dead. A 9mm pistol was reportedly recovered from the scene. Police said the deceased men were believed to have been connected not only to the shooting of the female service station attendant, but also to a wider series of robberies committed across the corporate area. Their identities had not been publicly released in the initial report, and investigators continued efforts to locate other individuals allegedly associated with the incidents. As is required following fatal shootings involving members of the security forces, the Independent Commission of Investigations was informed. Its involvement is expected to include an independent examination of the scene, the weapons reportedly recovered, the accounts given by the officers, and any available forensic or video evidence. The operation again placed Spanish Town and surrounding St. Catherine communities at the center of a high-profile police investigation. It also illustrated the movement of suspected criminal groups between Kingston, St. Andrew, and St. Catherine, creating challenges that require coordination across different police divisions. Although police described the operation as an armed confrontation, the allegations against the deceased men had not been tested in court. The investigation therefore remained important both for establishing their suspected connection to the robberies and for independently determining the full circumstances surrounding the fatal police encounter. Clarendon. Police constable dies in early morning Bustamante Highway crash. Clarendon recorded a tragic road fatality on Friday, July 10, when 32-year-old police constable Shavane Davy died following a motor vehicle crash on the Bustamante Highway. Davy was assigned to the Public Safety and Traffic Enforcement branch in the corporate area and was originally from Craighead in northern Manchester. Preliminary reports indicated that the constable was driving a Toyota Primera shortly before 5 a.m. when he reached the Swansea area and apparently lost control of the vehicle. The motor car overturned, leaving Davy seriously injured. He was taken to hospital but was later pronounced dead. The tragedy was especially painful for members of the security services because Davy had dedicated his working life to public service. Before joining the constabulary force, he reportedly worked with the Department of Correctional Services. His death therefore affected colleagues in both the policing and correctional communities. The crash again focused attention on the dangers associated with early morning travel along Jamaica's major roadways. Reduced visibility, fatigue, speed, road conditions, and unexpected obstacles can all increase in the risk of serious collisions. Although investigators had not publicly identified the precise factor that caused Davy to lose control of the vehicle. For Clarendon residents, the incident added to continuing concerns about road safety along the Bustamante Highway, an important corridor used by private motorists, public transport operators, and commercial vehicles. The fact that the victim was attached to the police traffic division gave the tragedy an additional and painful sense of irony. Investigations into the collision were expected to determine the vehicle's movements before it overturned and whether environmental, mechanical, or human factors contributed to the crash. Constable Davis' death left the Jamaica Constabulary Force mourning another member while reinforcing calls for motorists to exercise extreme caution, particularly during overnight and early morning travel. Manchester. Operation Reset results in multiple fraud charges. Manchester was at the center of one of Jamaica's most significant law enforcement operations during the week after police carried out Operation Reset, a coordinated anti-fraud initiative targeting lottery scamming and other organized criminal activity in Montego and surrounding communities. The operation involved members of the Jamaica Consolidated Forces Counter-Terrorism and Organized Crime Investigation Branch, CTOC, the Fraud Squad, and other specialist units. Investigators executed several search warrants simultaneously in an effort to disrupt criminal networks believed to be operating within the parish. The operation resulted in 8 people being charged with offences under the Law Reform, which is the Fraudulent Transactions Specialist Provisions Act, while another individual was charged under the Dangerous Drugs Act. During one search in Scotttown, Greenvale, investigators also recovered a 9mm 6-aught pistol loaded with 7 rounds of ammunition inside an abandoned building. The firearm was seized as evidence, and forensic examinations was expected to determine whether it had been linked to previous crimes. Police described the recovery as another example of how anti-fraud investigations frequently uncover legal firearms and other criminal activity beyond financial crimes. Commissioner-level officers have repeatedly argued that lottery scamming remains one of the country's most lucrative criminal enterprises, generating millions of dollars annually while also fueling gang violence, extortion, and the illegal weapons trade. Manchester has long been regarded as one of the areas where scammers have established sophisticated operations, making continued enforcement a priority for the security forces. Officials stressed that Operation Reset was designed not only to arrest suspects, but also dismantle the financial infrastructure supporting organized crime. Residents welcomed the increased police presence, but also expressed hope that enforcement operations would be sustained rather than limited to periodic raids. Business leaders have likewise argued that reducing organized fraud is essential for protecting Jamaica's international reputation and encouraging greater investment. The latest charges are expected to move through the parish courts in the coming months as prosecutors continue building their cases. St. Elizabeth. All-part expansion plans raise new economic hopes. St. Elizabeth received one of this week's most significant economic announcements after Mining Minister Floyd Green revealed that China's Jiquan Iron and Steel Company, JISCO, intended to invest approximately $490 million to modernize and expand the Alpart alumina refinery at Nain. The proposed investment represents one of the largest industrial commitments announced in Jamaica in recent years and has renewed optimism about the long-term future of the country's bauxite and alumina industry. According to the minister, the planned investment would significantly increase refinery capacity while introducing modern technology designed to improve operational efficiency and environmental performance. Government officials believe the expansion could create hundreds of construction jobs during the development phase before generating additional long-term employment once the upgraded refinery becomes fully operational. The announcement follows years of uncertainty surrounding the facility after changing global aluminum market conditions delayed early expansion ambitions. While the government welcomed the announcement as a major vote of confidence in Jamaica's mining sector, opposition representatives and several civil society groups called for greater transparency regarding implementation timelines, environmental safeguards, and the extent of benefits that will ultimately flow to surrounding communities. Questions have also been raised regarding infrastructure improvements, water management, and long-term rehabilitation of mined lands, all of which remained important issues for residents living near mining operations. For St. Elizabeth, however, the proposed investment has the potential to transform the parish's economy by stimulating businesses that provide transportation, engineering, construction, accommodation, and other support services. Local leaders have expressed cautious optimism that the project could generate meaningful employment while strengthening Jamaica's position as one of the Caribbean's leading alumina producers. Further announcements regarding project approvals and construction schedules are expected in the coming months. Westmoreland. Hurricane recovery continues as some residents remain displaced. 1 year after Hurricane Melissa caused extensive damage across sections of western Jamaica, recovery efforts remained a major issue in Westmoreland during the week. Government agencies continue reconstruction work on damaged public infrastructure, while humanitarian organizations highlighted that some vulnerable residents were still living in temporary accommodation or damaged homes awaiting permanent assistance. Officials from the Ministry of Local Government and Community Development reported continued progress on housing repairs and infrastructure rehabilitation across affected communities. Road improvements, drainage restoration, and repairs to public buildings have continued under various recovery programs supported by both the Jamaican government and international development partners. Authorities maintain that recovery has advanced significantly despite the scale of destruction caused by last year's hurricane. Community representatives, however, argued that several families continue to face difficult living conditions. Some residents reported delays in receiving reconstruction assistance, while others said they remain concerned about the resilience of their homes ahead of another active Atlantic hurricane season. Social workers and disaster management officials have continued conducting assessments to identify households requiring additional support before severe weather threatens the island again. The ongoing recovery effort has highlighted both the progress achieved and the challenges that remain in rebuilding disaster-affected communities. Emergency management officials have also intensified preparedness campaigns throughout the parish, encouraging residents to strengthen roofs, clear drains, and finalize hurricane emergency plans. With forecasts indicating another active season, Westmoreland's experience serves as a reminder that disaster recovery often extends well beyond the immediate aftermath of a storm. St. James, police shooting case moves closer to circuit court. St. James remained in the national spotlight during the week as the criminal case involving police constable Andrew Wilson advanced through the justice system. Wilson, who is charged in connection with the fatal shooting of Latoya Baldwin during protests in Granville in May, appeared before the St. James Parish Court on Friday. The matter is scheduled to be formally transferred to the St. James Circuit Court on Monday, July 13th, marking another significant stage in one of Jamaica's most closely watched police accountability cases. The case has attracted widespread national attention because it touches on the use of force by members of the security forces during periods of civil unrest. Prosecutors allege that Baldwin was fatally shot during disturbances in Granville. While the circumstances surrounding the incident continue to be examined through the criminal justice process, the transfer to the circuit court means the matter is moving closer to trial, where evidence will be presented and tested before a judge and jury. Legal analysts note that cases involving police officers often receive heightened public scrutiny because they raise broader questions about accountability, public confidence in law enforcement, and the balance between maintaining public order and protecting citizens' rights. Throughout the proceedings, the court has emphasized that the accused remains entitled to the presumption of innocence until proven guilty. Residents of St. James continue to follow the matter closely, with community groups, human rights advocates, and members of the Jamaican Constabulary Force all expressing interest in its outcome. The case is expected to remain a major legal story over the coming months as prosecutors prepare for trial and defense attorneys continue reviewing the evidence. Trelawny. Farmer continues recovery after devastating fire. Recovery efforts continued in Trelawny following the devastating fire that destroyed several commercial buildings along Duke Street in Falmouth. Although the blaze occurred earlier in the month, the period between July 6 and July 12 was dominated by cleanup operations, damage assessments, and discussions surrounding the rebuilding of one of the town's important commercial districts. Business owners spent the week salvaging inventory, clearing debris, and working with insurers and government agencies to determine the extent of their losses. Several entrepreneurs whose livelihoods depended on the affected buildings said they hope reconstruction could begin quickly to minimize the long-term economic impact on the historic town center. The fire displaced multiple businesses and temporarily interrupted commercial activity in the area. Local government officials confirmed that structural assessments were continuing while fire investigators worked to establish the exact cause of the blaze. Community organizations also mobilized to support affected business operators and employees, many of whom suddenly found themselves without a workplace. The incident highlighted the vulnerability of older commercial buildings and renewed calls for improved fire prevention measures and emergency preparedness. Despite the setback, residents expressed confidence that Falmouth would recover. The town remains one of Jamaica's most important heritage and cruise tourism destinations, and business leaders believe reconstruction provides an opportunity to strengthen infrastructure while preserving the area's historic character. The recovery effort is expected to continue over the coming weeks. St. Anne. Tourism sector maintains strong momentum during summer season. St. Anne recorded another encouraging week for tourism as hotels, attractions, and tourism operators reported strong visitor activity across the parish. Ocherios, Runaway Bay, and surrounding resort communities experienced healthy occupancy levels as the island entered the peak summer travel period, providing a significant boost to local businesses and employment. Representatives of the tourism industry said international arrivals remain steady despite global economic uncertainty. Attractions including Duns River Falls, Mystic Mountain, and Dolphin Cove continued welcoming large numbers of visitors, while restaurants, transportation providers, and craft vendors also benefited from increased tourist spending. Industry stakeholders noted that strong airlift into Jamaica has helped sustain visitor arrivals throughout the season. The tourism sector also continued investing in infrastructure improvements aimed at enhancing the visitor experience. Public and private sector projects focused on road upgrades, beautification initiatives, and expanded visitor services are expected to strengthen St. Anne's position as one of Jamaica's premier tourism destinations. Officials stressed that maintaining high service standards remains essential as competition among Caribbean destinations continues to increase. While tourism remains the backbone of St. Anne's economy, community leaders also emphasized the importance of ensuring that local residents benefit directly from continued industry growth. Calls were made for additional training opportunities, support for small tourism enterprises, and increased linkages between hotels and local farmers, manufacturers, and artisans. These initiatives, they argue, will help spread the economic benefits of tourism more broadly across the parish. St. Mary. Government rejects renewed third country national claims. Public discussion continued in St. Mary during the week after government officials again rejected claims circulating on social media that third country nationals were being housed within the parish. The issue, which has generated widespread public interest in recent weeks, surfaced as residents sought clarification regarding reports that foreign nationals had been quietly relocated into communities across Jamaica. The Ministry of National Security reiterated that no third country nationals had been brought into Jamaica under any such agreement, and maintained that no approvals had been granted for housing migrants in St. Mary or elsewhere on the island. Government representatives urged members of the public to rely on verified information from official sources rather than unverified social media posts, warning that misinformation had contributed to unnecessary anxiety among residents. Community leaders welcomed the clarification but also acknowledged that the controversy demonstrated the importance of timely public communication whenever issues involving immigration and national security arise. Several residents said they simply wanted greater transparency from the authorities whenever claims of this nature begin circulating, arguing that prompt official responses help prevent rumors from spreading. Although the government considers the matter settled, the debate highlighted how rapidly misinformation can circulate online and influence public opinion. For St. Mary, the week's discussion served as a reminder that effective public communication remains a critical part of maintaining confidence in government institutions and addressing community concerns before they escalate. Portland. Eastern Jamaica attracts growing investment interest. Portland continued to generate positive economic headlines during the week as government officials and private investors highlighted the parish's growing potential for sustainable tourism, agriculture, and environmental focused development. Discussions surrounding several proposed investment projects reinforced Portland's reputation as one of Jamaica's fastest emerging destinations for ecotourism and boutique hospitality, with investors increasingly attracted by the parish's natural beauty and relatively undeveloped coastline. Officials pointed to continued interest in expanding tourism offerings while preserving Portland's unique environmental character. Unlike Jamaica's largest resort centers, Portland has positioned itself as a destination centered on nature, culture, and community-based tourism. Industry stakeholders believe this strategy has attracted visitors seeking authentic experiences, creating opportunities for local entrepreneurs in accommodation, transportation, agriculture, and heritage tourism. Investments in roads, utilities, and digital infrastructure are also expected to strengthen the parish's ability to support future economic growth. Agriculture remains another important pillar of Portland's economy, and the government continues encouraging stronger linkages between local farmers and the expanding tourism sector. Producers have been urged to increase supply to hotels and restaurants, helping to reduce imports while ensuring more tourism revenue remains with local communities. Business leaders argue that combining sustainable agriculture with responsible tourism could provide Portland with a resilient long-term economic model. Residents have generally welcomed the growing investment interest, but continue to emphasize that development should protect the parish's rivers, forests, and coastal ecosystems. Environmental organizations have likewise called for careful planning to ensure future projects preserve Portland's internationally recognized natural assets. As discussions continue, many believe the parish has an opportunity to become a national model for balancing economic growth with environmental stewardship. St. Thomas. Southern Coastal Highway continues to transform the parish. The transformation of St. Thomas remained one of Jamaica's most significant infrastructure stories during the week as work continued on the Southern Coastal Highway Improvement Project. The multi-billion-dollar development has fundamentally changed transportation across eastern Jamaica, reducing travel times between Kingston and Morant Bay while opening new opportunities for commerce, tourism, and residential development throughout the parish. Construction activities continued on associated roadworks, drainage systems, bridges, and supporting infrastructure designed to improve connectivity between communities. Government officials have repeatedly described the project as one of the country's largest modern infrastructure investments, arguing that improved transportation will encourage private investment, facilitate agricultural exports, and strengthen access to public services. Residents have already reported noticeably shorter travel times and safer road conditions along completed sections of the highway. The improved transportation network has also stimulated growing investor interest in St. Thomas. Real estate developers, commercial operators, and tourism stakeholders have increasingly identified the parish as an attractive location for future projects because of its improved accessibility to Kingston. Local business owners have similarly reported increased commercial activity, with many expressing optimism that the highway will generate new employment opportunities and encourage young people to remain within the parish rather than seeking work elsewhere. Despite the significant progress, government officials acknowledge that work continues on several supporting components of the wider project. Engineers remain focused on completing complementary infrastructure while ensuring resilience against flooding and severe weather. For many residents, however, the transformation is already evident. Once regarded as one of Jamaica's most isolated parishes, St. Thomas is steadily emerging as a more connected and economically competitive region, with the Southern Coastal Highway serving as the foundation for future growth. This concludes this week's Jamaica News Now, 14 Parishes Weekly Roundup, covering the biggest stories from Monday, July 6 through Sunday, July 12, 2026. This week reflected many of the issues currently shaping Jamaica: continued efforts to combat organized crime, major developments in the courts, significant economic investment announcements, ongoing disaster recovery, improvements in national infrastructure, and another busy period for the tourism industry. Thank you for watching Jamaica News Now. If you found this comprehensive island-wide roundup informative, remember to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss the latest developments from across all 14 of Jamaica's parishes. I wish you a safe and productive week ahead. We'll see you next time with another edition of Jamaica News Now. Subscribe today, turn on notifications, and never miss the stories that matter most. Jamaica News Now, your Highlands, your news, right now.